November 12, 2013 meeting of the Downers Grove Village Council. It is my distinct privilege to call this meeting to order. I want to point out that there are copies of our agenda for tonight's meeting on either side of the room. If you haven't already taken the opportunity to do so, please pick up a copy and you can follow along with our proceedings tonight. There will be opportunities for public comment at multiple points, both with respect to items on our agenda tonight as well as with respect to items that are not on our agenda tonight. And we'll look forward to hearing from you at those points in time. It is customary for us to begin our meeting by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, and tonight we have some special guests who are here to help us with the pledge. We have a robust turnout from PAC 86. Enjoyed speaking with them earlier today. Gentlemen, if you would please come up to the front right here and turn around so everyone can see you. Or actually, you can stay facing the flag for now. We'll turn around afterwards. Move on down a little bit if you'd like. Caps off. Scout salute. We're going to turn around and we're going to ask everyone else to please rise and join us in reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Terrific. Well done, Scouts. Now turn around. Don't go anywhere. Just turn around so the folks at home can see you. You did a fantastic job helping us reciting the pledge. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. You may return to your seats. Thank you. And I don't know if it counts, but I think you've earned those badges, in my opinion. Thanks for being here tonight. Really good questions. All right, well, with that, I will ask our fine village clerk, April Holden, to please call the roll.
Commissioner Jose?
Here.
Commissioner Olson?
Here.
Commissioner Rankin?
Here.
Commissioner Barnett?
Here.
Commissioner Neustadt?
Here.
Commissioner Durkin? Mayor Tully?
Here. Thank you very much. That brings us to item 3 on our agenda, which pertains to minutes of prior council meetings. We have one set of minutes from our November 5th, 2013 regular council meeting to review and approve. Are there any changes, corrections, or comments with respect to those minutes?
Well, I did just want to thank the council for having me participate electronically last week. That was much appreciated, and I was glad, despite the fact I was unable to be here, to benefit from all the comments from the public and the discussion. So, thank you very much.
You're welcome. It was hotly debated back and forth, and it was ultimately a very close vote. It squeaked by, and we were able to let you participate. So, thank you very much for your diligence in doing that, even from afar. Hearing no comments, corrections, or changes to the minutes, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Those minutes will be shown as having been approved. That brings us to item 4 on our agenda tonight, public comments of a general nature. If there are any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to any items of a general nature, that is, items not appearing later on our agenda tonight, we would invite you to please come down to the podium. The protocol is to please give us your name and address, and we would welcome hearing from you. So at this point in time, I would ask any members of the public with any general questions or comments to please come on down to the podium, and we'd love to hear from you. Good evening, Mr. Falish.
Good evening, Mayor. I saw an article in the Suburban Life recently about a trucking company in senior housing. The village said we're going to issue bonds for $20 million. How can we issue bonds and not have any responsibility if the senior center defaults?
That's a very good question, and when they were before us last time, it was a question a number of people asked, because any time that we're involved in any issuance of bonds, we want to make sure that if they're not directly for our benefit, that we are not also responsible for any liability. In this situation, if I'm getting this right, they're basically what's known as conduit bonds, where we're sort of a pass-through for the bonding authority that is coming from other places. So while we're facilitating the issuance of those bonds, we're not in any way, shape, or form directly responsible for them. It's not our obligation. It doesn't affect us. If they were to default, it doesn't impact the village at all. And I believe that we've received multiple reassurances to that effect from, if not others, our bond counsel.
I can't understand that. That seems a little
right.
high.
We're not issuing the bonds is the real simple way to put it. We're acting as a conduit for the bonding authority of other entities.
Okay, so then all the expenses and interest is all covered by the
Correct.
senior authority?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, but good question. You weren't the only person that asked that. A couple people asked that last week as well, and I think every time this happens, we should rightfully ask that question to be sure. Other questions or comments of a general nature? Questions or comments of a general nature with respect to items not appearing on our agenda tonight? Hearing none, I will move to item 5, council member reports. Do any members of the village council have any items that they would like to report out this time? Commissioner Jose?
I have no report, Mayor. Thank you.
Commissioner Rankin?
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Commissioner Barnett?
Yeah, I guess I'm still confused on timing, but I do have something brief if you just allow me.
Sure.
I just wanted to take a moment to give our condolences from the village of Downers Grove and to the village of Westmont and to the Ron family. For those that may know, Mayor Ron passed away yesterday. He was 71 years old. He had been mayor of Westmont for 30 years, or at least elected public official in Westmont for 30 years. That's pretty awesome, and I think that folks in Westmont undoubtedly will be grieving his loss, and rightly so. For those that may have known Mayor Ron or just want to participate, there's going to be a funeral Friday at Modell Funeral Home on Cass Avenue in Darien. Funeral services will be 11 a.m. Saturday at First Congregational United Church of Christ here in Downers Grove. Public servants are much maligned these days, but there are an awful lot of them at local levels in particular that are just good folks doing good work, and from what I know of Mayor Ron, he was certainly one of those, and he'll be missed.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for sharing that. I was going to mention that myself, so I appreciate you doing it, particularly in detail. Last week, we talked about how we learned of the passing of former Downers Grove Mayor Frank Hauk, and now we're saddened by the passing of Bill Ron, who I had the pleasure of working with in some capacities, both as a trustee and then as mayor. And it's unfortunate that he lost his battle with a long, debilitating illness. He will be missed, and thank you for sharing those words. Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, Mayor, I just want to recognize yesterday, the 11th of November, was Veterans Day. And just wanted to recognize that the American Legion had a very nice service, 11 o'clock yesterday at the Legion Post on Saratoga. And I was just very pleased that I could make it out there to participate yesterday morning. And just wanted to take a moment to thank all the veterans that we have, both with us here today and at home and across our village, who've really protected our freedoms and allowed us to live in this great village and great state and great country that we do so enjoy on a daily basis. So just want to say thank you to all those veterans out there.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well said. Commissioner Newstead.
Thank you, Mayor. Those of you who are here and watch often, you may recall me talking about the Pink Fire Truck, or pinkheelchicagoland.org. Our very own Downers Grove firefighter, Joel Maines, is responsible for the chapter of Pink Heels in Downers Grove, and he will be bringing Leslie, the Pink Fire Truck, back to the area. On Sunday, there'll be a short parade starting at Fairview and Manning in the Darien, Downers Grove area over there, over to Darien Woodridge Fire Station number 1 on Lyman, just south of 75th Street. Leslie is the local chapter for Pink Heels. The truck is all painted all pink and has signatures of cancer survivors and patients. This Pink Heels group has done a lot of great work for cancer patients all over the country, and to have our own kind of chapter right here sponsored by one of our very own Downers Grove Fire Department members is very special. I would encourage anyone that's affected by cancer in any way to come out and see what they're all about, see what Leslie's all about, and you can do that between 11 and 1 on Sunday, November 17th at Darien Woodridge Fire Station number 1. More information, you can check out pinkheelchicagoland.org for future updates of locations and a little bit more about the tour. Thank you, Mayor.
Terrific. Thank you. And I have nothing to report out that hasn't already been said quite capably by my colleagues. So we will move right to item 6, public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight. So that brings us to item 7 on our agenda, which is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments by members of the audience with respect to any of the items on the consent agenda? Any questions or comments from any members of the village council with respect to any of the items on the consent agenda? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Consent agenda passes unanimously. That brings us to our active agenda. We have several items on our active agenda tonight. Agenda item 8A, we'll begin with. Do I have a motion to approve an ordinance approving an economic incentive agreement with Art Van Furniture Midwest LLC?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions from any members of the audience with respect to this item? Any questions or comments from any members of the village council with respect to this item? Commissioner Barnett?
Thank you, Mayor. I intend to support this motion this evening, but I wanted to bring something up that I touched on last week and remind us all of comments from a few weeks ago. There's a clawback provision in this contract, or in this agreement, rather, sorry, that, in my opinion, is a little light, certainly in terms of security, and differs or contrasts itself to agreements that we've had historically in Downers, those without some kind of security or relatively recent events. And what it points out to me or highlights to me that I'd like my colleagues to think about is, I mentioned a few weeks ago I was hoping we could get an FA meeting together to talk about economic development related issues, TIFs, BIDs, et cetera. And this is another subject in my mind that warrants sort of a fresh review by this council so that our folks that are working on our behalf, as well as our potential new members of our community, all have sort of current information about the opinion of this council and how we want to proceed. I would certainly prefer an agreement that looked a little different as it relates to this, and I'd like to encourage us all to get some of those meetings scheduled sooner rather than later to actually start having that discussion. My vote tonight's not predicated on that because I think by and large this is a good agreement and certainly brings to the village a lot of economic opportunity that might otherwise be missing in a tough spot. So it's good work by all, but for me it underscores some of those comments from a few weeks ago, and I'd like to just make them again. I think we need to meet sans a regular council meeting with a sort of an open agenda on the subject of economic development and our intended policies forward and opinions of the council forward. So hopefully we'll get that on the calendar sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments? Commissioner Olson?
Thank you, Mayor. I did want to say that I got to comment on this last week, but did want to reiterate that I think that it's fantastic that we're bringing a high-quality furniture store to a site that's been very challenging for our community. And just want to thank our Economic Development Corporation, the village staff, and those at Art Van who worked to bring this to fruition and bring this here tonight. I'm very pleased to support it. I did want to note, as Commissioner Barnett said, I think we would benefit from a broader discussion of economic development policies and thoughts on economic development, and I think that having a more broader policy discussion that's not based on any one specific item would be beneficial for this council, for the public, and for our staff as well. So I hope we can work together to schedule something of that nature in the future. And just wanted to once again reiterate my thanks to everyone involved for bringing this fantastic deal. I am just very pleased to support it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments from members of the council? I'll just weigh in on a couple of the comments that have been made. I don't take any issue with anything Commissioner Barnett said in terms of could we have more security for the agreement? Sure we could. And I'm happy to have I think you said FA, just for those of those who don't know government acronyms, we're talking about Finance and Administrative Standing Committee of the Village Council.
Thank you, Mayor.
That's fine, we can have that conversation, and it would be a policy-driven one in terms of when we do incentive agreements, what kind of protections are we looking for? Because obviously they're all individually negotiated based on the circumstances, but from a conceptual standpoint, what types of protections and to what extent those protections ought to be in future incentive agreements, we can certainly have that conversation at some point in time as part of that committee meeting. Personally, I think there's sufficient protections in here, the main one being that the only downside to the village, actually there is no downside, because if everything is done and they don't start generating any revenue, we don't rebate anything. We only rebate once there's a sales tax that's generated by what is currently generating no sales tax. And so the best protection is that there's no downside to the agreement. If sales tax isn't generated, there's nothing to rebate. So we're not giving up anything that we would have had absent this agreement in the first place. And to me, that's the primary and principal protection of this kind of agreement, that there really is no downside to the village or to the taxpayers. And in terms of the holdback, the clawback, of how much is actually going to be set aside from what would otherwise be paid as part of a sales tax rebate, certainly we can talk about different percentages than 25% for future agreements. I have no problem with that at all. I'm satisfied that the one that's in this agreement is sufficient, but if the will is that we have some other percentage, sure, we can talk about that as well. Obviously, if we're going to go beyond policy dealing with incentive agreements themselves and the types of protections that are covered, and we'll go more broadly into economic development strategy, that sort of brings in another area, which would be, of course, the Economic Development Corporation, who I know is in the middle of doing a lot of strategic planning on themselves right now, which we will have the benefits of when that time comes. But long and short of this, with respect to this agreement, I think as Commissioner Olson said, we're thrilled to have Art Van here and to put a currently fallow property to a very good, if not highest and best use. Any other questions or comments from members of the council? Hearing none, may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. The matter passes unanimously. It brings us to item 8B as in boy. Do I have a motion to adopt an ordinance that will authorize a special use to permit the expansion of an automobile repair shop at 815 Ogden Avenue?
Mayor Tully, I move to adopt an ordinance authorizing a special use to permit the expansion of an automobile repair shop at 815 Ogden Avenue as presented.
Second.
Any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to this item? Questions or comments from members of the council? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. The matter passes unanimously. It brings us to item 8C as in Charlie. Do I have a motion to adopt an ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2014 budget in lieu of passage of an appropriation ordinance?
Mayor Tully, I move to adopt an ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2014 budget in lieu of passage of an appropriation ordinance as presented.
Second.
Any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to the fiscal year 2014 budget? Questions or comments from members of the council? Commissioner Newstead.
Thank you, Mayor. I kind of said this last week, I'll say it again for those who are here listening. We have had a number of meetings on our budget, and to me, I look back at the history of where I've been and where we are now and how we've handled budgets in the past and this particular year, the 2014 budget. And I have to say that it's a remarkable change. It allows our residents and our council and our staff to interact in a way that we've never been able to do before. Literally having, I think we were at number 6, and we've got a couple more to go, meetings, or 7, I don't know where we are in the. We've had a lot of great discussions, but we've had a proposed budget with lots of different services. This budget has exceptional municipal services included. This budget has infrastructure improvement. This budget has long-range planning aspects. This budget has everything we need for 2014 and beyond. And most of our conversation was about one item, and that's stormwater and stormwater rates and fees. I think that's a great indicator of where this village is financially. I think it's a great indicator of where we are going to be in 2014 financially, and I look forward to 2014 being another great year for this village. Our organization has changed in the last, 5 or 6 years, and it's changed in a way that is tangible starting right now. This budget is probably the best municipal budget out there, and I actually went around and looked at some of them, which is not something I normally do, but I took some time the other day, and the background, the description, the information, the ease of use compared to our neighbors and some of the other municipalities in the area is hands down, we win. And I think when we win, our residents win and the organization wins. So that's a long-winded speech to say thank you to our staff, thank you to my colleagues for all the hard work that we've gone into this budget. And I look forward to approving this budget and moving on to 2014's projects and plans. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Olson?
Mayor, I didn't, thank you for recognizing me. I want to echo what Commissioner Newstead just said, and I don't want to repeat, but I do want to thank all the staff and council, residents, everyone who participated in this process. This is another great step. I did want to note, I do plan to vote for the budget tonight. As members of the public and my colleagues who may know, I am still uncomfortable with a 6.4% increase in the stormwater fee. However, what we're doing tonight is adopting a budget which sets maximums in each fund. We are not adopting the level of the stormwater fee in this vote or in the next vote to estimate the aggregate tax levy. So I do want to note that for the record, that while I still am uncomfortable with the 6.4% fee increase, that is the subject of a later vote, and I do plan to support the budget tonight and thank all involved in preparing it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments? Commissioner Jose?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to also chime in to say that I think this is a fantastic document. We've got a budget that we can all be very proud of, and it's because of a lot of hard work by village staff, my fellow commissioners up here, and the residents. The budget process that I've been a part of as a resident was very interesting to see, and it's great to see the flip side of that coin and see just what goes into it. It really is an open, transparent process, and I want to thank staff for that. We, as Commissioner Newstad noted, we have the commitment to fiscal prudence. We've got a flat property tax levy with regard to operations. Once again, we've got a commitment to infrastructure with $20 million going into streets and water infrastructure and sidewalks. We're resolving some long-held problems like the Fairview Fire Protection District and the annual gap that we had there. This really is a document to be proud of, and I want to commend staff, I want to commend the council, and I look forward to voting in favor of it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Rankin.
I won't repeat everything that everyone said, but I think the really neat thing about this budget is that anyone without any experience in village government, if they just were a resident who wanted to look at our budget, they could look into the document and really find the answers they're looking for. There's a lot of history. There's explanations of the reason things have changed. I think it's very user-friendly, and I think it's really easy to comprehend and read. So thank you for all of your hard work.
Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, the good news is I won't be repeating anything my colleagues say because it's my intention not to vote for the budget. I'll be brief, probably not as brief as some folks would like, but that's part of our process. As Commissioner Newstad said, there's a lot of good in this budget, and a lot of that is evidenced by the fact that so much of it was in agreement out of the gate. So I certainly don't want to take away from any of that. But the one subject that we did spend a fair amount of time on is one subject with which I still have a lot of dissent, and that is the stormwater utility portion of our planning. Budgets, they say a lot about policy because they're often the very embodiment of policy. They're how we put the policy to the street and how we plan to do the work that supports the policy decisions that were made. And so, as it probably comes to no surprise, I continue to hold that including the NFPs in our stormwater utility structure is bad policy. I do agree with the expense predictions that are out there. As Commissioner Olson said, that's really what we're talking about, but those are ultimately driven through our planning process by a give and take from both the expense and the revenue side. So they're not totally detachable, even though our voting process does allow for that. I voted for last year's budget, which certainly included stormwater utility, because it was part of the idea that we'd go forward and sort of see how it played out. What I've seen so far through the implementation is one that I don't approve of and that I can't continue to support. The good news is that this council shares all the same goals that I think our staff does and I think our public does, which is top quality infrastructure, sustainability, predictability, improvement in the equity of the cost of government, and reducing the burden on on residents. And those are worthy goals. Those are why we have economic development, which you heard a little bit earlier about this evening. And so for those watching that see this process play out, there's a lot of good, not only in the budget itself, but in sort of the alignment of your elected officials, your staff, and our residents on the goals for the village. But the different paths taken to achieve those goals have different side effects and different consequences. And while all those goals are worthy, I maintain they would all be still accomplished to one degree or another if the NFPs were out of or exempt from the stormwater utility. So I suspect the utility is here to stay. I continue to maintain it needn't be. The financial and physical health and welfare of the community are not dependent upon the stormwater utility any more next year than they were in years past. But my colleagues have made pretty clear that this council, at least as it's made up today, believe that to be the right course. So I had hoped that the tweaking that we'd all talked about, the adjustments, the learning curve, would result in some give and take and some compromise, and we haven't gotten there yet. There's been certainly some discussion, and I appreciate everybody's ideas about ways to try and lighten the load on the not-for-profits, but those aren't in play. Those aren't part of what we're expecting from a revenue modeling standpoint going forward, because we really have no idea how that's going to work out. And I will continue to encourage us all to do everything we can, as the mayor said, to proactively reach out, because it is the right course. But at this point, because of so much of the discussion on the budget to this point has focused singularly on this issue, and I'm in really total disagreement with it, I intend to not vote for the budget tonight. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments from members of the council? I won't repeat as well, other than to say I won't repeat what others have said with respect to the work that went into the budget and the process. But I do want to underscore the process, because our budget, as Commissioner Barnett pointed out, is the embodiment of policy. And that policy goes way back to the long-range planning sessions, where this council, in a session that was a lot of give and take, because everybody has their own ideas. 7 people can't each get their own way. I have yet to see that happen. So by necessity, almost every long-range plan is a child of compromise discussion, and everyone realizing that they're not going to get everything they want, but they do their best to get as much as they can, and then try to derive at some kind of consensus that is in the best interest of the community. And candidly, regardless of what everyone's position is, we all think that our position is in the best interest of the community. Just at least you have 7 different, 9, 8, 12 different opinions on what that really is. But that long-range plan, which in and of itself is a child of compromise, discussion, give and take, then if you imagine a funnel, we'll move down to the next level, which is the prioritization of action items. So you have a plan, but now you have to actually have action items along the course of that plan that make things happen, or to stop something from happening. And here again, we go through an exercise where we have to talk about, well, how many action items can we have in a given fiscal year? Our staff, as superhuman as they are, can only accomplish so much within a given year, and we have to prioritize things. And once again, there is a great difference of opinion in many instances amongst members of this council in terms of what are the highest priorities, and some people get their priority as a high one, some people don't get their priority at all. It's, again, a child of compromise. And then continuing down to the narrower part of that funnel, you get to the budget, because now the staff knows what's the long-range plan, what's the vision, again, a consensus vision of where the community is going, what the items are that are supposed to be accomplished in the near term, and all of those have discernible costs to some degree, more or less, and those, again, are prioritized based on consensus of the council. And you get to the bottom of the funnel, and the budget is almost pretty much written at that point in time, because in order to accomplish the plan and to achieve the action items for that fiscal year, you have to have a budget that kind of looks an awful lot like what this one does. And once again, it's going to be a reflection of the fact that not everybody gets everything as much or to whatever degree as they would like. I don't think I've sat up here for quite a few number of budgets, and I don't think we've ever sat at a budget where somebody didn't dislike something about the budget and voted their conscience. And again, everybody thinks that what they're doing in their position is in the best interest of the community. I've never heard anyone sit up here and say, you know what, I'm going to vote in what I think is not in the best interest of the community. So the reason I say that history is that I don't think anyone should take any more or less away from any vote for or against a budget, other than the fact that if it passes tonight, as I suspect it will, that it is a budget. And it's consistent with the long-range plan that was also something that was a consensus outcome, as well as the high-action priority items that we talked about at some point in time, all of which is a reflection of where we need to go and how we need to get there. It's as simple as that. And it'll be the same thing next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, whether it's this council or some other council. But one thing that I think is good, and everyone will agree with, because I heard everyone say it, is that the process and the manner in which it's reflected in the budget document is truly superior. For that, we are very grateful and blessed as a community, because I think we continue to achieve Perhaps not all the same way that everyone would like, but I think we continue to achieve those goals that get us the kind of recognitions and accolades that we keep repeating and sharing with the community up here, whether it's our bond rating, whether it's recognition as one of the best places in America to live, so on and so forth. So I think we're on the right path. With that, I will ask for a roll call.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Bless you.
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Nay.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. The matter passes 5-1. It brings us to the next item on our agenda, which is item 8D as in David. Do I have a motion to estimate the 2013 aggregate tax levy for the Village of Downers Grove?
Mayor Tully, I move to find and determine the aggregate levy for the Village of Downers Grove as defined in the Illinois Truth in Taxation Law, estimated to be necessary to be raised by taxation for 2013 upon the taxable property in Downers Grove is $25,590,872.84. This amount is based upon an estimated levy of $3,968,669 for corporate and police, $2,850,000 for fire, $2,303,858 for police pension, $2,467,520 for fire pension, $4,440,083 for library operating, $616,836 for library 2013 series debt service, and $702,307.50 for fire station number 2, 2007 series debt service, and $1,153,587.50 for stormwater 2008A series debt service, $108,000 for Central Business District 2008B series debt service, $1,045,450 for Central Business District and Fairview Avenue 2009 series debt service, $407,325 for Central Business District 2010 series debt service, $571,800 for Central Business District 2010B series debt service, $3,223,418.76 for Capital Projects 2012 series debt service, and $1,403,217.08 for Central Business District 2013A series debt service. The estimated levies for Special Service Area Number 2, Central Business District Special Service Area is $246,446. The estimated levy for Special Service Area Number 4, Green Acres Special Service Area is $0. The estimated levy for Special Service Area Number 5, Atwood Special Service Area is $0. The estimated levies for Special Service Area Number 6, Fairview Fire Protection District Special Service Area is $82,355. Public hearing will be held on these proposed levies December 10th, 2013, 7 p.m. in the Village Council chambers. The adoption of the proposed levies will be held on December 17th, 2013, at 7 p.m. in the Village Council chambers. Staff is also directed to prepare ordinances to abate certain 2013 tax levies.
Second.
And tax title and documentation fees are extra, right?
Absolutely.
We have a motion and we have a second. Are there any questions or comments from any members of the audience? Questions or comments from members of the Village Council? Commissioner Barnett.
I just want to point out that Commissioner Olson has successfully made it through some of the council hazing. There's more to come.
Indeed.
And he did all of that without really a breath. That was pretty impressive.
Next time we need a disclaimer for some publication, television program, let me know. He's our man.
Thank God for copy and paste for April.
There being no questions, there's two things to point out. Number one, a lot of that recitation is driven by what we have to do to comply with the law. And this is the estimate for the 2013 levy, which of course is always done in arrears, which is why we're talking about 2013. And there were a lot of big numbers there that Commissioner Olson tossed out, which have to be stated as such according to requirements of the law. But I do want to note that we are looking in the future at proposed abatements from the levy, and we'll be discussing that at a future meeting. If I'm right, it's around $8.6 million in terms of proposed abatements.
Correct.
So we go through this every year where we levy a certain amount and then we abate it, meaning we don't collect it. So the actual amount is going to be lower than the numbers that Commissioner Olson read, but we are required by state law to read them as they have been read. And there will be more. We have some meetings coming up later this month. We're going to be doing the publication, truth and taxation notice, and announcement of public hearing with respect to the tax levy. That is also a model of clarity in the way that document appears in publications. And there will be a public hearing on the tax levy on December 10th, and then the adoption of the tax levy is slated for December 17th, along with the proposed abatements that I just described a moment ago. So stay tuned, there will be more. Did you get all that down? Back 86 wrote all that down, right? Get that back? I think he's got better notes than I do.
I think you made him nervous now.
Just recognize you're still here.
The quiz comes later.
That's right. There being no further questions or comments, roll call, please.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye, the matter passes unanimously, and that brings us to the end of our active agenda. And item 9 is our first reading, or our workshop portion of our meeting. We have no workshop items to discuss tonight, so that will bring us right to the mayor's report. I do have 2 items under the mayor's report. First, I have a liquor license application matter that I would like to read into the record. The village has received an application for an upgrade of liquor license from beer and wine only to full alcohol off-premise consumption from Trader Joe's East Inc., doing business as Trader Joe's, located at 122 Ogden Avenue. Pursuant to Section 3-12 of the Liquor Control Ordinance, a public hearing for a liquor license application may be waived. The application must be placed on file for a minimum of 2 weeks, subject to public comment prior to the issuance of the new license. At this time, I, as the Liquor Commissioner, am placing this application for classification change on file in the village clerk's office. Barring any objection, once the 2-week waiting period has passed, a full alcohol off-premise consumption liquor license shall be issued to Trader Joe's East Inc., doing business as Trader Joe's, located at 122 Ogden Avenue, and putting that on file as of today's date. The second item has to do with a resolution appointing one of our outstanding residents who is terrific enough to volunteer to serve on one of our boards and commissions. So at this time, I'll ask our fine village clerk to please read that resolution.
Resolution appointing Karen S. Englander to the Architectural Design Review Board. Whereas Mayor Tully has appointed Karen S. Englander to the Architectural Design Review Board, now therefore be it resolved that the Village Council of the Village of Downers Grove does hereby confirm the appointment of Karen S. Englander to the Architectural Design Review Board to a 3-year term expiring August 31, 2016.
Do I have a motion for that appointment?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments from any members of the public or the village council? I just want to say that, first of all, I want to thank my colleagues for their assistance in identifying a highly qualified person to serve in this position, which, according to our municipal code, requires certain expertise and experience. So thank you very much for your assistance in doing that. And more importantly, we want to thank Ms. Englander for actually volunteering to do it. We're greatly appreciative of her lending her time and her skills to this important board, which does require particularized background and experience. And so we look forward to your service on that board and commission. Do I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Matter passes, and congratulations to Ms. Englander. That brings me to the end of the mayor's report, and we go right to item 11, the mayor's report. Mr. Fieldman.
No report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That brings us then to item 12, the attorney's report. Ms. Petrarca.
No report tonight, thank you, Mayor.
We're batting 1,000. And we come right then to item 13, council member new business. Do any members of the village council have any items of new business they would like to raise with the rest of the village council? I'm
Thank you,
getting back
Mayor.
over there. Just want to make sure. Commissioner Barnett.
Thanks, Mayor. Something just came to me this evening, therefore I guess that makes it new business. Could we have some sort of we've got some pretty talented folks dealing with our website and our communications. I'm wondering if we could put together some sort of a little, graphical example of how these, it's obviously going to have to be very generic, but these economic development incentive agreements work. I think there, in my communications with residents, there seems to still be a pretty big gap in general understanding, because we hear so much in the kind of greater geographical press about whether it be Navistar or whomever it might be in the moment, And there's a disconnect between the way those are structured and the way the state economic development system works and the way we generally structure our programs. I'm just wondering if that might be something that we could help clarify a little bit by having a little example. I'm thinking in my head, there's those, little, Google has little things on how to start using Gmail, it could be a very simple little thing of a series of arrows here and there that would help people understand the differences between what we're doing here, which I think are really well done, and some of the nonsense that goes on in Springfield.
Always happy to help in that regard. I think that's something we could put together, led by Doug, and we'll get some of the economic development folks as well.
I think that's a terrific suggestion, because you're absolutely right. I think we talk about how this works, but there's so much static out there in terms of what an incentive agreement is, and they're not all the same. They're very, 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 very different. And we've worked very hard to develop one that, not that it can't be improved, but to develop one that I think has worked pretty well for us, and to visually see that concept in a single image I think would be very powerful. And I know it can be done. There was a wise trial lawyer that once said there's no concept or idea or communication that can't be reduced to an image or a graphic. And I'm already thinking of one that involves 2 different colors and some big fat arrows, and it'll show this concept, I think, in a singular graphic image. I think that's a very good suggestion.
I agree.
Anyone disagree with that?
No, I agree. I think it's a great idea.
Seeing no disagreements, we'll take that as unanimous affirmation that said graphic shall be developed.
Mike is already sketching right now, so
There it is. He's already got it. It's animated too. All right, I'll stop there. Sometimes you have to know when to stop. Any other items of new business from any member of the council? Hearing none, then I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Newstead?
Aye.
Commissioner Olson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Rankin?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you and good night.